In my last video, I told you that most traders fail because they don't follow the rules. Well, I'm not immune to that. I failed my evaluation. It wasn't my strategy, my setup was there, but my emotions just got the best of me. I'm sharing this because this is the reality of trading. It's not all Lambos and easy payouts. But before we dive into the challenge and what went wrong, let's start from the beginning. If you're new here, my name is Bree, and I'm a futures day trader documenting my real journey on the road to getting my first 10K payout. I'm going to be showing you the wins, the losses, the emotional roller coaster, and all the behind the scenes things that most traders don't like to share. So make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss a video and you can avoid making the same mistakes as well. Before we dive into the trades that I took and actually failing the challenge, let's talk about what my plan was to even get funded. I bought a 50K challenge and I had a plan on how I was going to execute things to pass that challenge. My plan was I was risking $300 per trade. I was taking 1 to 2 trades per day on one setup per day. Sadly, I didn't follow that. So let's jump into it and see what happened. All right, obviously we see here 3K profit target and my net profit and loss was $1,400. So this may be a little bit confusing to some of you because you know that the max drawdown is actually $2,000. So if I only lost $1,400, how did I fail the challenge? So this is where that trailing drawdown comes in that we discussed in my previous video. A lot of the futures prop firms, or pretty much all of the futures prop firms, has a end of day trailing drawdown. So if you win a trade and you close that trade and let's say you make $200, your trailing drawdown now moves up $200. So you're still allowed to lose a max of $2,000. However, the number that the account can now go below moves up by $200. For example, the max loss on this account originally when I bought it was $48,000. But if I won a trade, let's say for $200, for example, then the trailing drawdown will now move up for the next day to $48,200. And that is the lowest balance that the account can now go beneath, or else I will fail the account. So let's take a look at the trades that I took. So as you can see here, this growth curve is just atrocious, horrible. It looks really bad. This is the opposite of what you want to see when you look at your challenge. It's just a complete downward trend. And let's take a look and see what happened. So we look at the calendar. You see on the first day, we did pretty good. $588. That actually was a really good win. I risked $300 just like my plan said. I was looking for a 1 to 2. That's my standard. And I closed out a $600 trade, right? After the fees, you'll see that it comes out to be a little bit less, but nonetheless, we had a good win. Then we come here to Tuesday, and if you can see here, we lost $947. Now, let's get really real with myself. If I said I'm risking $300 per trade and I'm only taking 1 to 2 trades per day, 300 times 2 is not $947. So obviously, I broke my rules on literally day 2. Let's get into it. So what happened on day 2? So on day 2, I actually did come to the market pretty confident. I knew what I wanted to see. I had a plan for my trades, and the first trade actually turned out to be a loss. And I realized that I was just a little bit too early. But instead of sticking to my bias and following my plan, instead, I changed my bias completely opposite. So instead, at first I was looking for buys, and then I switched to shorts. And then guess what happened? I lost on the shorts too. And then I said, you know what? I should have stuck to my bias. I'm going to stick with the buys. So I got back into buys. Guess what happened? I lost again. And then I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I am wrong. And maybe it sells today. So instead, I took the sells. But you see, even still, 300 times 4 trades doesn't add up to $900. That's because I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and I knew that I was breaking my rules. So I lowered my risk the last 2 trades. And that's funny because now I care about risk management, right? I'm already over trading, breaking my rules, but risk management matters at this point. So we're not even going to get into that. But at the end of the day, I took way too many trades on Tuesday, and that caused me to lose. So now by Wednesday, I think I took 2 trades and I risked $300 per trade, just like I said, and guess what? 2 losses, right? I'm the type of trader that I do not associate losing with having a bad day. I associate following my rules with having a good day. So if I broke my rules, that's a bad day. If I followed my rules and I lost, it's still a good day. So overall, Wednesday was still a good day. Even though we did lose, I still followed my rules. I took 2 trades, I risked $300 per trade, and I walked away after I lost. Now let's look at Thursday. So Thursday is important to look at because you see it's only $100 trade. Now, if I show you guys the setup for Thursday, I closed at a 1-to-1. I had severely lowered my risk because of the fact that I knew that I was in a lot of drawdown. I hadn't won a trade well, I had only won one trade, but I had already given back so much of my profits. And at this point, I'm in drawdown on the challenge. So I lowered my risk and I was really confident in this trade. I'm not going to lie, but there was news coming up. I was literally about 10 or 15 minutes away from news after I got into this trade. So when I got into the trade, I saw that it was pushing in my favor and it looked really good. But then I made the decision that, it's going to be news. Let me get out of this trade. And I closed it, even though I was very confident in the trade. My analysis said that I was right. And I really, besides the fact that there was news, I didn't have any reason to close the trade. But I closed it at a 1-to-1 because I was nervous rather than just putting my stops in profit or maybe putting it at break even before the news came out. I just closed it, which is fine because you can't go broke taking profits, right? I took profits. It's a win, right? This trade ran on probably per what would have been like a 1-to-6 if I would have held. When I tell you US 30 absolutely melted after I closed this trade. And you know what? I was a little bit salty about it, but more than anything, I was proud of myself because of the fact that I did not just jump back in and try to chase the rest of it. I closed out and I was fine with the profits that I took. But it's important to note that I still did not follow my rules because, what did I say? I target a 1-to-2. If I close at a 1-to-1, that's not following my rules. So although I did close with profit, I still broke my rules and that's not okay. All right, let's move on to Friday. Now, Friday ended up being a break-even day. I took my trade. I was up 1-to-1 and then I moved my stops to break even and then I ended up getting tagged out at break even. So that was a break even day. So I won't really count that as a loss or a win. So going into the following week now, we see that I lost 500 and then this was what breached the account. So on the $500 day, same thing. Like at this point, I was starting to feel a little bit defeated, but I did still follow my rules. I lowered my risk to accommodate the fact that I was in heavy drawdown. But at the end of the day, my emotions at this point were just like completely deflated. And, my confidence was pretty much in the trash can. So I wasn't trading at my very best, and which eventually did just ultimately end up making me lose and then blow the challenge. So the lesson here, the market does not care about your plans if you do not respect the process. So I didn't follow my rules. I didn't respect the rules. I didn't show any respect for the process. So where did I end up? I failed. Am I going to quit? Absolutely not. I actually purchased another challenge. I'm about a week in on this challenge. I'm doing my best to follow my rules and I'm focusing more on my rules versus the profits. Remember, once you start focusing too much on the profits, then you start thinking in payouts and you start ignoring your rules, you start ignoring the process, and that's when you start to make mistakes. So I'm doing my best on this new challenge just to focus on following the rules. So now I've already completed week 1, so let's take a look at where we're at, what the current stats are. So as you can see, I am in drawdown. I'm trying not to let that affect my psychology. Again, we have like this steady kind of downward curve. It's not as steep as the previous one because I am following my rules this time around. But I must say price action this month and the past couple months have just not been the greatest. For the month of March, I'm $842 in drawdown. And we have not won a single trade on this account. And I'm not going to lie, it's kind of tough. And it's definitely a little bit difficult to stay motivated and not to get discouraged with the losses. However, like I said, it's all about following your rules. The main thing that I'm trying to focus on is that every day I show up and I follow my rules. Win or lose in terms of profits, following my rules is the most important thing because I know that once I follow my rules, that the wins will come. I know that I have an edge over the market. I trust in my edge over the market. Is it going to be a winner every time? No. Sometimes we're going to have a little bit of losing streaks. Sometimes the strategy is just not going to be ideal for the market conditions. But does that mean that we quit? Does it mean that the strategy sucks? No. I know that the strategy works. I've done it before. I've been funded before. I've gotten payouts before. So I know that it works. So this is just a minor setback, right? So we got a couple of losses here. But you can see that it's more consistent and I'm following my rules as opposed to what the calendar for the previous challenge looked like. On day one, we took 2 trades. I lowered my risk for this challenge. I'm not risking the full $300 as I was on the previous challenge. The max drawdown on the 50K challenge is $2,000. So I'm risking 10% of that per trade. So I risked $200 per trade and I lost 2 trades on Monday. All good. Charge it to the game. It's Monday. I didn't go past my 2 trades. We followed our rules. That was a win. On Tuesday, we took 1 loss. Wednesday, we took 1 loss as well. Same thing. I didn't even bother to take a second setup because if I don't like it, I'm not going to take it. If you don't see your setup, don't take it. Don't force a trade because forcing a trade is just the fastest way to lead to a loss. You want to protect the capital until you feel confident in a setup that looks clean to you. Thursday was a no trade day. That's okay. No money at risk. No losses. And then on Friday, we had a break-even day. So on Friday, my trade hit 1-to-1. So I moved my stops into profit at break-even. And then it ended up pulling back on me and hitting break-even. So it was a break-even day. So all in all, we live to trade another day. We do still have more than half of the drawdown left. So we're still in a good spot in terms of passing the challenge. All in all, it has been a little bit of a rough start. It's been a rough week. Yes, it was an unprofitable week, but that's going to happen. Not every week, not every day, not every month is going to be profitable. That is the game of trading. That's the name of the game, right? Trading. Not every time is going to win. So we reset, we learn, and we go again next week. Same goal, but stricter discipline. If you want to see if I can actually practice what I preach and stick to my rules and pass my challenge this time, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. The journey continues next week.